When did you originally start coaching?
Like seriously coaching?
Yes.
5 years ago.
So COVID.
Yeah.
Was there a reason behind that?
A lot of people wanted to give up. A lot of people were using COVID as an excuse. And COVID was actually a great time in business because people were spending money. But if you used COVID as the excuse that people weren't spending money, you weren't going to make money. Like what you're telling yourself is how it's going to happen, right? But there was plenty of money going on. I believe the construction industry was booming because people had nothing else to do but spend money and sit home. People were buying shit. Online businesses were going crazy. You know, what wasn't happening were airlines, vacations, that kind of stuff because people couldn't go nowhere. But internally, people were spending money day in and day out. But we use the excuse that life is over because we're listening to the media, which is bullshit, right? That everything's falling apart, blah, 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 all this shit. Like, dude, we're going into a recession right now, but it's going to be the greatest time for all of us who are in business because we're going to be able to capitalize. Everybody else is going to give up, make excuses, fall apart, and we're just going to grab all that.
What was it like in Jersey during the quote unquote pandemic or plandemic?
Well, we're about as fucking liberal as you guys are.
Are you?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, man? There's a bunch of Italians there. There's a bunch of Polish people there. I figured there's some sort of culture that saved you guys from this woke-minded bullshit.
Yeah, like the Armenians did in LA. They saved us from all of it.
Everything was closed down, just like you guys. And it was a shit show, you know, but people were, like I said, people were spending money and doing things because they had no other option. They were getting all this free money. They were doing whatever they were doing. But restaurants were closing down, and some restaurants actually did better. They put up whatever tents they had to put up, whatever walls they had to put up to separate whatever they had to do. And they kind of jumped into time to say, hey, we got to make these changes. Let's spend this money, where everybody else wanted to stay the same way they were, not adjust. And when you don't adjust at any kind of time, even in today's economic times, like every single business needs to adjust and reevaluate every year. And if you're not changing with the times, you're going to fall apart or you're not going to grow. So people who made it in COVID were the ones who adjusted, not the ones who sat there and complained. 90% of people who complained lost everything, lost family members, lost this, lost that. But when you look at the majority of people who passed away anyway, people who aren't healthy, they were overweight. It wasn't people who were healthy, people who were still trying to stay healthy. It was people who were mentally giving up and didn't want to continue to fight the fight. They were letting the world and the noise create the outcomes in their life versus the other people who weren't buying into bullshit, especially out here.
Yeah, it's crazy that was 5 years ago, man. 5 years ago, people were, as you mentioned, pitching tents outside to eat. Mm-hmm. People were putting on masks to go to the bathroom and then coming back and sitting down and taking the mask off. Lines were 6 feet apart. It was just such a fascinating time. And I think it was like April or maybe even sooner than that, where we kind of took a couple steps back. We're like, bro, this is all bullshit.
Yep.
But we were all called crazy at the time. Are you kidding me? You know how many people are dying? But as you mentioned, the majority of them had underlying issues, comorbidities, hypertension, heart issues. I mean, somebody who's stage 4 cancer, who's on their deathbed, passes away, and they say, well, it wasn't the cancer that killed him. It was COVID. Somebody gets into a motorcycle accident. Well, you had COVID, and if he was wearing a mask and that helmet.
Well, think about it too. Like the hospitals, the nurses, they didn't want to deal with it. So you weren't getting the proper attention because nobody wanted to deal with it. Nobody wanted to get sick. Nobody wanted to do this. The whole hype of what was going on, even doctors, like, let's prescribe this. Let's not really look at the real situation. Let's give them this, and this, because this is how we're making money. And it was a money gamble for many doctors, many hospitals and all that versus really finding out the problem. Diagnosing people with COVID that didn't have COVID. It's bullshit. And they say now, I guess in China or some shit, they're saying there's a second storm of COVID coming or some bullshit.
No, when did you hear this?
I saw it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
There's been several posts over the last week or so.
Last couple weeks.